Well, oh no, God, we are live. Crap, I gotta turn the music off. All right, welcome to Forge at the Table. I am Charles, I am your dungeon master, and this right here is the maiden voyage, the premiere episode of Adventures with Bubbles, with these 5 wonderful people sitting here. We're going to go around the horn here just in a few moments. I've got their volume shut off so they won't bug you guys, because man, they won't shut the hell up. They've been bugging me all day about this. So, anyways, let's get a few things a little bit out of the way. First off, I want to thank everybody that swung through here and dropped off some incredible follows on us. The latest one being Lizbeth51987 for the follow. I know that the mighty Bubbernot dropped in yesterday evening after we bombed him, and he dropped a follow on us, which is absolutely magnificent. As far as upcoming announcements, there is no show tomorrow. There might be a stream tomorrow evening, but if there is, it'll be a surprise even for me, because I have a tech coming in to look at my computer because I am having audio issues. They are kind of bubblegum and duct taped right now, and it's working. So if I cut out in the middle of this, blame Bubbles. It's her fault. The next stream is going to be Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, where I will be opening up the crate that is being sent by the wonderful folks over there at Easy Roller Dice. They are sending me a crate full of wonderful goodies and giveaways to give you guys, including, from what I understand, some possible metallic dice sets and some awesome brand new dice trays for you guys. So that will be coming up on Friday. And then, of course, this Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, we go into episode 3 of A Walk Beyond, that game where I am running a Dungeons & Dragons campaign for 5 of the most wonderful, incredible moderators from over there at D&D Beyond. That would be Firehawk2324, that would be Subsys Cyber, Storm Knight, Villain 3, and of course, our Singapore friend, Source. So, and then on Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we will finally have episode 9 of The Long Road, where we get to see if love is still in the air. I'm going to try my damnedest to keep that at least PG-13 and not go above that, but I don't control the players, so... And then on Sunday, we have episode 6, I think it is, of Adventure Weekly, where we get to find out exactly who it is that made a feast in these old dwarven ruins and why exactly the halfling had to pick up the axe. So we're going to see how that plays out, which my bet is we're going to be short a halfling, but those things happened. So at this time, I would like to introduce tonight's cast. We're going to go around the horn. We're going to start with the wonderful and talented Weiss girl who is playing Collie. Go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and about your character, if you would.
Well, you know, I've been playing D&D for a few years now because my dad was a huge nerd and got me into, or still is a huge nerd. I keep saying was. He got me into it. And I'm going to be playing Collie, or Colossus, who is a halfling druid raised by Goliaths.
And Bryway playing Arthur Kari.
Yes, I am Arthur Kari of Atlantis, and I am a paladin of the seas, and I am on a quest for vengeance. And I've been gaming for quite a long time in real life, and I've played most systems, but not all of them. There are still a couple, but I remember playing Star Frontiers, Gamma World back before they 4th edition ruined it, where you could be like a 2-headed penguin with 6 brains and fun stuff like that. And so I want to bring as much of that random strangeness to this world as I possibly can.
And Atavistic, the player of Rastoban.
Hello, hello. I will be playing Rastoban, the swashbuckling rogue halfling. Been playing D&D for quite some time now, and really excited to get in on this and watch the murderous turtle of Bubbles, see where that unfolds.
And she doesn't really need an introduction. Everybody should be quite used to her face. I don't think outside of the home crew anybody else has got as much camera time on this channel as she does, but she's playing Cadence. Let's hear from Jens.
Hi guys, I am Jens and I am playing Cadence Firestar, who is a rock star. She wants to be a rock. She thinks she's a rock star, but we'll see what happens. A tiefling bard, and she has run away from home and on the road and found all these guys. So that's it.
And without further ado, everybody's favorite murderous turtle, Bubbles, played by Firehawk2324.
Hi, I'm Firehawk, and I'm Bubbles!
So, one last announcement, as you can see in front of you on your screens, you can see that it says, look down below for ways you can blah, 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 blah. Yes, we are one of those channels where you can give us your hard-earned money, your hard-earned greenbacks, dollars, Confederate bills, pesos, nacho chips, stale pizza, warm beer, whichever it is. And you can have an actual effect on everything that happens in this game and every game as they are on this channel. You can give bonuses to the players, which why would you want to do that? You can give bonuses to the Dungeon Master, which is exactly what you want to do. You can spend some money and create NPCs and all that thing. And just to touch really quick on the NPC thing, because I've actually had some questions about this in the locales. People are seeing that mighty 10,000 bits thing there. What that gets you is not just an NPC. Those are actually limited spots. Depending on the campaign, it may be 1 or 3 different NPCs that we're going to open up for that. If you do take that option, what you end up doing is you will join me for about an hour or so over Discord in an actual voice-to-voice chat, and I will sit there and design with you a villain, an ally, an NPC, a location at that monetary level that will actually have a very important reoccurring role. You will get to design on stylings of voice, personality, how they came about being in the situation that they're in. It's not just an NPC that you're going to see once and is gone. This is an NPC that is actually going to have an impact. In this current campaign, there are 2 spots open. There is a possible ally, if you so choose, and there is a possible villain or an antagonist for Bubbles. If somebody would like to eventually take that up, you're more than welcome to, but it's not required. So I just wanted to get that cleared out. So one last little bit, just so people know, if you're new to the channel, we have actually been in contact with several companies, and we have a lot of really cool stuff coming to give away to you guys. So stick tuned for that. I want to talk about on April 20th, Weiss Girl there is jumping onto the channel for a one-shot of D&D 5th edition done with a modern spin. Come check that out. That's April 20th at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Bryway there is stepped forward as well to be a DM in another D&D 5th edition modern spin game. That one will be kicking off on May 1st at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We currently have 2 slots left open for that game out of the 6 that were possibly there. If you want a spot in that game, jump on it, because it's not going to be there for very long. And then there's this Cthulhu thing that's coming up, but that's no big deal. We'll get to that some other day. No reason for that. How
many games could I be in?
All of them.
So you may be sitting out there wondering, what the hell is he talking about with all these games? This is the way this channel works. If you guys want to play in games, you guys want to play Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, you want to play Call of Cthulhu, you want to play Blades in the Dark. If you want to play Blades in the Dark, I'm not kidding. If you want to play Blades in the Dark, please let me know, because I really want to run that game. If you want to play Star Wars, Call of Cthulhu, or any other number of games that we're running, the whole premise of this channel is that every single game is filled with followers and subscribers. So right now, I believe we have, after the middle part of May, we'll have 9 or 10 different campaigns being ran on this channel. Of those, 8 of them are fully played by followers and subscribers. There's only one house game on this channel, and that happens on Saturday nights. Other than that, it's all followers and subscribers. If you want to get involved in playing here, all you have to do is drop a follow on our humble little channel and get involved over on our Discord. It's that simple. And keep your ears open, because we got a lot of cool stuff coming up and games coming up. So without further ado, I've been chomping at the bit for this. when last we saw our ill-fated heroine, Bubbles and her compatriots had just finished off sending 6 children, innocent children, to their deaths. Whether this was by choice or whether it was not by choice does not matter in the eyes of the fates. 6 children on that fateful day met an end due to the decisions of one Bubbles, a very laughable, lovable, almost cartoonish turtle at that point in time. Swarmzy, thank you for the 500 bits, and that is a +5 for the DM. Thank you, good sir. I will put that to good use.
We're toast already.
Bubbles spent the better part of the next 6 months more or less wandering aimlessly until she met up with her new compatriots. The 5 of them have formed a rather odd company, a strange group of people that have found themselves within the great port city of Stormhaven, hanging out at a little tavern, a little inn known as Mardigran's Ever-Flowing Tankard. When last we had left them, Rastuban and Arthur Kari were still down in the tap room, standing at the roughly hewn wooden bar held up by several barrels. The tap room itself empty. They were left to their own devices by the owner, Mardigran, to go ahead and drink to their heart's content. They had noticed that some shadows had begun shifting in the area, and the presence of a couple of very large blue-bottom flies had made a presence, while upstairs, Cadence, Cully sat, eyes kind of wide, as they watched Bubbles once again battling with hidden demons in one of her nightmares. Bubbles, her eyes snapping awake, not understanding exactly where she was yet again, looked over and saw Cully sitting just as a child would upon the bed, her eyes wide. Bubbles, you slowly come to the room, kind of claustrophobic, sitting on the second floor. The furnishings sparse, to say the least. There's a bedpan, a simple table set at a slightly opened, paneled window, a couple of beds, and a mat of straw and hay sitting over in the corner upon which currently Cadence rests. You, with your large shell, were pushed up against the far wall, and again, you'd spent the better part of the night lost in dreams of that ill-fated night when your halfling compatriot, rather than doing the chivalric, courageous thing and saving the life of those children, dove and saved his soul. You wondered, and you've spent many a day wondering whatever happened to him, and maybe that's a question that will get answered. But the demons that haunt your dreams now are that of 6 children, ghostly, that seem to follow you wherever you go in your dreams, taunting you, asking for questions to which you do not have answers. These always end with your eyes wide, sweat drenching your turtle skin, if turtles can sweat, that is. Your eyes filled with tears. Right now, with your eyes filled with tears, blurred vision, you look over across this room. You've had problems coming out of these dreams from time to time over the past few months, and especially since you've met this current group that you run with, because halflings have presented a problem, as have gnomes to you, because they very much remind you of the children that died. Their screams still haunt you. You'll walk in broad sunlight, beaming rays of golden light falling around your shoulders, and you'll see children playing, and it pulls on your strings because you don't see the children that you should see. You see the children from that fateful day in that dark, dank dungeon. Your eyes blurred, you look across the room. A single light emits across the room itself. And on the other side of this light, you see a small, very slight form, glowing eyes. You don't know if it's the light or if they're actually glowing. Maybe it's one of the haunted children. You're not sure, but you see a small figure sitting on the bed, very childlike. You hear in the very, very, very back of your mind a small young child, maybe 6, 7 years old. And when his voice plays across your mind, the vision of this boy comes back to you. His skin searing off, melting, sloughing off of his bones, exposing undeveloped muscle. Why? Why did you do this? We were innocent. And as his voice floats through your mind, you focus on this childlike figure sitting on the bed, feet hanging. You don't recognize Collie. You have this habit from time to time, maybe superimposing other images on some of your friends. They're always the shorter friends. They're never the tall friends. Like, you would never ever come up to Arthur Carree and superimpose that, it just wouldn't fit. But Collie, definitely. And you see somebody other than her sitting on the edge of that bed. Her eyes slowly kind of focus down on you. And they seem to be judging you from in the darkness. There you go.
No, I didn't mean to.
You didn't mean to what?
I didn't mean to. It was an accident.
Is this one of your dreams again?
Yes. Sorry.
It's me. I'm not a kid. I'm just Collie. Remember?
Okay.
It's a little racist when you do this every time.
Sorry.
It's all right. I understand. It's just, I'm not a kid. I'm an adult.
Right.
You also didn't kill me.
Okay.
Throwing that out there. Do you need some water or something? I don't know how to help.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
I go over and I fill up like a little bit of a water skin and bring it over.
All right.
I chug it down.
All right. Go ahead. Everybody that's on the top floor, so that would be Cadence, Bubbles, and Collie. Roll me a perception check.
Uh-oh. Let the sevens begin.
Oh boy.
Perception.
Wow.
Oh!
So
It's
starting
a
with
9
Collie.
total.
9 total. Bubbles.
A natural 3.
4.
Wow. Yeah, well, you guys are just now waking up. Cadence.
I also rolled a 3 with a +1, so 4.
4. Oh, wow.
We're rolling awesome
So
tonight.
the three of you, a combination of sleep still wrapping around your minds, draped over your shoulders. You're not entirely super aware, and Bubbles and Collie, you guys are kind of once again entrapped in this whole come out of the dream, I'm not the child that you think you murdered sort of sequence that seems to be all too common more often during the week than not. This happens. There has been times where even Bubbles maybe woke up in such a fright that she's literally grabbed onto you with the intention of throwing you across the room to get you away from her. You don't pick up on the great giant red dragon that's just snuck into the room. You guys sit there you sit there in the room, settling the situation, while downstairs Arthur Carree and Rastaban, you're both standing. Well, Arthur is probably standing, Rastaban's probably upon a stool. But you find yourselves alone in the tap room, except for that shadow that kind of seemed out of place and seemed to shift ever so slightly across the far wall, kind of basically, Arthur Kari, you're standing here with Rastaban, so it would kind of be behind Rastaban, kind of in the corner that runs into the front door. It is late at night. The tap room's closed down, probably closer to midnight than anything. You can see moonlight outside. You can hear the ringing bells of port markers and from bobbing ships out in the myriad of bays. There's probably easily a couple hundred ships throughout all the different bays that surround this particular port. The Port of Storms, Storeham Haven, this time of year is probably closer to 200,000 people. It's the height of trade season. The docks are full. The city streets are full during the day, but at nighttime, the city actually, at least in this area, does quiet down. You're alone. The last thing you remember is Martigrin really just kind of giving you a sly wink. You've kind of grown accustomed to his winks over the past day or so. He's an odd fellow, a rather skinny dwarf. Not barrel-chested, rather slim of build, an odd fellow, and he basically gave you a wink and told you that if you wish to drink, you can go ahead and drink. Drink to your heart's content, your coin will cover it. And he kind of wandered off into a back room. One of the things about Martigrins that is rather interesting and that you found out early on is that his three main large barrels of ale, mead, and stout are ever filling. They never seem to run out of the liquid that's in them. You can easily see also the rune work on the iron bands that bind the large barrels to the positions that they're in, which he allows to continue to glow as more of a warning than everything else. And you definitely realize that probably grabbing these wouldn't be a good thing to do. And most other patrons probably the same way. But that shadow did move. What are you two going to do?
Friend Rastaban, look, is that shadow moving? And I pick up my trident and I just chuck it at the shadow.
All right, go ahead. Well, let's go. I'm going to go ahead and let you do that. I'm going to give you a free attack because, well, I can guarantee you that shadow wasn't expecting you to stab the shit out of the wall. So we're going to go ahead and throw an attack roll.
That's not a great number. Let's see what my plus is. With the trident. Let's see. That's going to be a whopping 11.
11. Your trident.
11.
In a straight line, true and solidly thrown, it strikes hard against the wall. You hear the metal tips of your trident shred into the walls of this small, rather not grand establishment. You can see spits of wood explode off of the wall, and at the same time as this happens, you see several shadows explode, almost seemingly to come out of the wall. The shadows themselves, like you're used to people, you've seen people hide in shadows, you're used to people skulking about. These ones don't look like they were skulking about. As a matter of fact, I'm assuming that Rastoban, you would have spun at least to see what exactly the hell it was that your trident hucking friend was doing.
On the contrary.
Oh, okay.
Rastaban, mid Arthur's throw, has reached across the bar to kind of find the better quality whiskey or ale or something and try and fish out a bottle.
Okay, so
Oh, God.
Arthur Kari, go ahead and roll me a perception check.
Ah, yes. I'm very observant.
Roll better than us.
Not likely, but... oh, no, wait. 17.
Nice. Yes, you notice that rather than a solid form figure stepping out from shadows, you see numerous figures, 5, 6, maybe 7, And these guys are not pulling away from shadow. It really appears that they are pulling out and away from the wall. The lead one that steps forward, he has a hood and a black leather, very finely crafted, thin cloak over his body. But in his hand, you see two very long, very sharp, nasty looking daggers or boot knives in his hands. They are being held, and you can see his hands are gloved in black gloves, but there is something odd about them. And sticking out from one side of the hooded cloak, you see very long whiskers. And at the very front of it, a small, elongated snout that is kind of wriggling back and forth and sniffing the air. The other figures that come out behind him are also similarly dressed, and you can see that they're all slightly hunched forward. You can't see any like real armor or anything off of them, as the shadows kind of hang slightly off of them, kind of flowing off of them, kind of like a face or a hand like displacing water as they kind of come out, and the shadows drop away. All of them appear, all five of these appear to be brandishing similar weapons, which are these very long stiletto-like boot knives. You can see that they all have the twitching noses. You can see one of them has two front teeth that are very long, kind of bucked, sticking out from underneath of his snout as they begin to kind of slide back and forth. Their movements are quite graceful, but they don't necessarily unnerve you. There's something less maybe about these creatures than what they are putting on. But you see that there are five of them. They are moving without any obvious sound. The lead one that first came out. So, you're an odd one. Where's the fucking turtle?
I have no idea what the turtle is doing at this present time, but I assume you mean our friend Bubbles.
You hear that one, boys? This guy, he's talking about the turtle, so that at least we know we got the right place. So, what are we gonna do with these two? And one off to the end, he's got a slightly grayer cloak on. You can see some darker brown patches. He's a rather scrawny looking version of whatever the hell these things are, but he kind of kicks back, and when he kicks back, his face kind of falls a little bit out from the hood, and you can see a wicked scar and bare skin where it looks like he's been burnt, and his face is kind of drawn up from the scar, so he's exposing missing teeth and jagged broken teeth. Yeah, I think that we should probably take care of these guys, I think. And at this moment, you notice that in his hand that he actually has what appears to be a small bit of arcane glowing energy in his hand. And we're going to go ahead and roll initiative.
Everyone?
No, just the ones upstairs.
Okay.
Just the ones upstairs.
Upstairs or downstairs?
Or downstairs, yeah, downstairs, my bad.
I mean, cause I'm perfectly happy if they're the ones fighting and not us. You know.
Do you need a snack or something? I just, what do I need to do to help you out, Bubbles?
I have a 14 for initiative.
I got a total of 22.
Very nice.
Pays being a rogue.
Yes.
Yep. You manage Rastoban. You're kind of sitting there. You're still fetching the bottle of scotch. And you hear all of this happening behind you. You hear movement behind you, and it's not footfalls. It's like the sound of very light, like children's slippers on a hardwood floor. As they you're hearing more of a shifting rather than an approach sound going up. Your hand, as you're reaching over, you reach over and you pull up a very large crystalline decanter that is filled with a very dark, orange-tinged amber liquid, almost filled to the top. The cap on this is actually sealed off with a royal purple wax that's dripped down the side of the decanter. The decanter itself and the liquid inside looks to be insanely expensive. Go ahead and roll me a history check really quick.
That is a 13.
This you recognize this bottle, and you almost, maybe for a split second, your grip loosens as you're kind of like, because as everything's happening between Arthur and the exchange with Arthur and these other creatures, and you can hear them mulling about, you pull up from behind this counter. Again, this place is maybe a few hundred feet from the docks themselves. It's not a grand establishment. It has a reputation, but the way it's constructed, it's constructed very much in a shanty styling. The boards are constantly creaking. There's dust when somebody walks across the floor up above. There's dust that falls down out of the ceiling and all that. It's the last place that you would ever expect to find the Thane's Calling. This is a scotch that is solely produced in one particular hall called the Amber Reach up in the Thanelands of Angvar. This stuff goes for in the neighborhood of 300 to 400 gold a bottle. And you're sitting there holding one of the rarest drinks in Atheln in your hands. Your muscles underneath your clothing, knowing the situation is about to get real behind you. Your muscles tense and you're ready for what's to come. Ready enough that you find yourself with the ability to clearly, kind of in your mind's eye, picture where these guys are at behind you. You, sir, have got the drop on them. What do you wish to do?
Before I make any type of movement, what's the lighting situation in the room? Do I have
It's
a lantern
basically
sitting next to me, or
no? There's actually there's one main central beam that has four kind of glass sconces or glass lanterns hanging from it, and then there's one on each of the side walls, and then two behind. There's a very large boar's skull hanging behind the bar, and on either side of that there are two smaller lanterns hung from iron sconces or iron hooks. The lighting is it's not bad, but the way the lanterns dance and the light dances around, it shifts a lot of shadows, and there's a lot of peripheral movement in your vision, and you can see numerous areas where the shadows are moving about and everything, but nothing that you can grab.
Nothing I can grab. That's too bad. All right, I'm gonna place the Thane's Calling on the counters, my initial action, and whip a dagger out from beneath my cloak and fling it at the nearest assailant.
You're gonna pull a dagger out and fling it at the nearest assailant. So Arthur, you basically see, like, you're looking at the five, and you see Rastaban, his face, you can recognize that he understands the situation that's behind him. You see his normal semi-jovial kind of face kind of grow a little bit more solid, and the shadows kind of deepen on it, and you notice as you kind of glance over that he pulls this bottle up, and you're not familiar with it, but you can definitely see that the craftsmanship that went into just the crystalline decanter and the way it's sealed up, it must be something pretty special. And you see him gently set it kind of on the bar and produce a dagger out of his clothing, out of the folds of his cloak, and spins in one fluid motion, releasing the dagger. Go ahead and roll me an attack roll, if you would, Rastaban.
Natural 20.
Nat 20. And that's how the Adventures of Bubbles ends. It's been nice seeing you. No. Rastaban, you turn around, you fling your dagger, and everything that you pictured in your head, from the shuffling of the feet and the voices that you heard and the layout that you understand of your environment, was true. As you spin and release the dagger, one of the creatures was in the process of sliding a foot forward and had just begun to lean forward with two daggers to begin his attack. You caught him solely off guard, and your dagger takes him straight through the throat. Go ahead and roll me damage.
That was a total of 7.
7, so we're going to double that. So that's 14. Your dagger takes this creature, and when it slams into him, you hear the compression of flesh. The place goes silent. You hear your dagger smoothly slicing through. You hear it tick off of something deep in his neck, and then you can hear it pop out the back. His head kind of snaps backwards, and when it does, his hood of his cloak falls off, and you see this very much rat-like featured head in front of you. It basically is a humanoid version of a rat. You see his head snap back, and spittles of blood and bubbles coming out of his mouth and rolling back. His eyes roll back, and you can hear him kind of very gravelly and wet and moist as he tries to let out a scream. Your dagger has pierced his windpipe and probably several other vital avenues of blood and such in his neck. He stumbles backwards just a bit and falls to the ground. This, for a brief moment, stops his compatriots, the other 4 that are remaining, stops them dead in their tracks. The shuffling ceases. They are standing there just oh so briefly with their weapons out, almost at a loss for what to do. Surprise, kind of glancing over, you can see these big yellow eyes opening up underneath the shadowed edge of their hoods, all of them almost in unison, tossing with a head snap, flipping back the hoods on their cloaks, and all of them shooting an eye over to their fallen comrade. To a 1, all of them have this very rat-like facial appearance, a very long-gated snout that comes to a shifting, kind of devious-looking nose, eyes yellow that go from wide back down to a slant, very thin and barely what appears to be open. You can see big, bucked, jagged, rat-like teeth, whiskers coming out. Almost all of them have scarring of some form or another on their body, but they all look down, and as the surprise begins to wane off of their eyes, before they can turn back, I am going to go ahead and give a free attack due to their being surprised to Arthur Kari. If you would like to press the advantage.
I would. Arthur will move up to the leader.
Okay.
And I will say unto him, "You who are the boss, who I shall call Boss Rat, prepare to meet my wrath. To arms!" And I will use a vow of enmity with my bonus action
Okay.
on him, giving me advantage on the attacks on him. And that will be a 24 to hit.
Just barely.
Yes. And because I'm mad that my trident is stuck in the wall, I'm going to pump a divine smite into his ass. So 2d6 and 2d8 of damage, because I want to follow up Rastaban's impressiveness with some of my own. For 8 crushing damage and 8 smiting damage, which I believe is radiant. So 16 points. Oh wait, hang on. I forgot to add my strength. 19 points of damage. Sorry.
Oh my god! And what did you hit him with?
The mall.
The mall.
I took him to the mall.
All right. Rastaban, you've been around this warrior, this paladin long enough to you probably almost maybe have a chuckle under your breath when he goes into his monologues, kind of very similar to a bad superhero. Arthur Kari raises the maul, exclaiming his exclamations, and brings the maul down. The poor rat-like creature has just enough time between Arthur Kari ends his tirade and brings his maul to bear to look up, one yellow eye growing wide again and shifting, not looking at Arthur Kari as much as it is looking at this maul that is streaming down before it. You can see without needing any rolls that this poor ratkin-like creature is trying to will his body to move, but he can't. It's almost as if his muscles have locked in place, not allowing him to shift. You can tell that there's some gracefulness. He's probably quite nimble, but in this situation, completely caught out of sorts. They probably thought that they had you dead to rights, that this was going to be easy pickings. And whoever sent them is about to find out otherwise at the end of this great maul. As it slams down into this rat-like creature, it had just enough to turn itself and begin righting itself, which was probably, at the last minute, what this thing realized was exactly the wrong thing to do. As the maul makes contact with the top of his head, slamming his rat-like head down into his slender shoulders. You can hear cracking and popping as teeth smash out of his mouth. One of his eyes, his left eye, literally bulging and popping from its socket. No, this is not a child-safe program. You can see the liquid, the blood, the smearing that comes down over his, and even that eye, when it pops out, for a brief moment, it looks like it's looking around like for what's causing this to happen. You drive this ratkin's head down into his shoulders, and you can continue, as you continue downward with the maul, you can feel his bones begin to pop, snap, his spine bending, folding like an accordion, his knees buckling, cracking, one of them going normal, the other one breaking the other direction, as you basically reduce him down to a loose bag of ratkin-like bones wrapped in what is now a bloodied, disshapen, what was once a very nice cloak, no longer as such. And you hear these eeps, eeps coming out of the remaining three, as it would look as though you have taken out, in one quick measure, two of their probably better fighters. You definitely laced the one that had the audacity to even feign that he could talk to somebody of your stature, or even yours, Rastaban. And he found out that there are rules in life. And those rules can be very harshly enforced. The other three stand there, and you can see in just a split second that they want to break and flee, that they want to break and run. But it's as if an invisible hand, an energy, something that you cannot see is forcing them to stand and forcing them to fight. So from Arthur Kari and from Rastoban, I need perception checks from you two as we shift our wonderful family hour upstairs.
Nat 20.
Nice. So
22.
Bubbles, Cadence, and Coley, the three of you are still upstairs in the room. And even though the floors are literally basically 2x8s that have been bolted to cross beams, there's not a whole lot that would separate any form of sound from downstairs to up here where you guys are at. You still manage to completely remain unaware of anything that is happening down below you as the fight for life and death erupts below you. The three of you are upstairs having girl time. As Bubbles,
something.
as Bubbles is just now shaking off the nightmare, coming to the realization that she is in room with friends.
Am I in the same room as them?
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep. So the three of you sitting in the room, completely unaware of what's going on downstairs. What are you going to do?
Well, is it morning? Like, are we just getting?
No, it's actually late at night. You were all basically turning in for the night. Bubbles wound up exhausted, fell asleep first. Her mumbling in her dreams woke both you and Kali from your slumbers.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I woke you up. Just go back to sleep. Everything will be fine.
Do you want to like talk about it or something? I don't know. I feel like we should maybe talk through these issues so you could maybe get through a night without looking at me.
It's
like,
fine. It's fine.
No, I don't think it is though. Back in my clan, we had this saying where you have to just kind of hit the thing that's in front of you. You can't run away from it. And I think that you've been running away from these dreams. I think it's time that you hit them head on.
I don't want to hit you.
No. That's Goliaths have some strange terms. I mean, just address your issues. I don't know.
No, it's okay. It'll be fine. Just go back to sleep.
Has she actually told us about what the dreams are about?
I don't know. Have you?
Probably not.
Probably not.
But why is it always her that you seem to like want to freak out on?
Yeah, you didn't freak out about her.
Never have a problem.
Holly just always happens to be there.
I see. Okay, well, if you need to talk about it, Colley's there for you.
That's good to know. Let's just go back to sleep.
Yeah, the three of you are completely oblivious to the danger and everything that's going on downstairs. Tired as you are, you again, sleep does begin to run its fingers through your hair and pull itself tight around you and try to coax you back to sleep. Bubbles, you probably don't necessarily want to go back to sleep, but sleep is something the three of you need. And again, completely oblivious to the raging war going on. Just 2 inches of wood separates you from the cacophony going on downstairs and your own private slumber room. Are you going to try to lay back asleep, or what are you going to do?
I think.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
Go ahead. I want to see what you're going to do first.
Kali is very stubborn, and I think she's been tired of hearing no for an answer. So she's just gonna kind of like stand next to Bubbles as she tries to go to sleep and just kind of poke her. Like, Bubbles. We'll talk about this sometime. I'm traveling together for a year, Bubbles. And she's just gonna kind of stand there and be annoying until
sleep,
Bubbles.
Holly. Please, just go to sleep.
You're not going to sleep. You're not. You're going to wake up in a few more hours and scream again and point at me and go, I didn't mean to, and it's all going to start over again. I don't want it to start all over again.
Go to sleep.
You're going to talk about it.
Please.
No.
I toss a pillow at her and say, go to sleep.
I will talk about it when I'm ready to.
Do you have like a timeline of when you're planning on being ready?
At this current moment, no, there is no timeline.
Bubbles, roll me a wisdom save if you'd be so kind.
5.
Oh. What the hell's happening?
Why? You didn't have to. We were innocent. Did you have to?
Okay, that's it. I need a drink.
This echoes in from the open window. And as your eyes fall upon the open window that is left, basically it's 2 panels of it's shutters more or less, but it's 2 panels of basically the same material that the floor is made out of. And it's sitting kind of cocked open a bit. And you see just over the eave, just underneath that, you see several ghostly fingertips as one of the panels swings open. The hinge, rusty from the salted air, creaks as it opens. Both Cadence and Kali, you see the panel on its own just open up. Bubbles, you see sitting there the image of a 6-year-old child and his compatriots, sitting with her back kind of up against the edge of the framework, little foot up, a small, wet-looking booty upon where there should be a full-fleshed foot. Is an impossibly small body, the youngest probably of the ones that were in the cage on that night. You can see the 3 that were in that cage, the 6-year-old boy, the 2-year-old girl, and the one you didn't quite get a good look at, but now you see a face, skull exposed, flesh half melted off the side, burnt and scalded, bubbled. You can see the skull pulling back over the pate of its skull, and the young child sitting, the girl kind of cocked back. She has a strange air of age about her. You would never expect to see a 2-year-old child set up the way she's setting. All of their hollow eye sockets focused in on you. The 6-year-old boy pulls himself up out of the night air, bringing himself first one leg passing through his compatriots, then the other leg passing through as he drops into the room. The only one that sees the children are Bubbles, but once again, the other panel with a low, resistant kind of creak sound opens up. You can see Bubbles' eyes probably getting a little wide. The boy comes in, even though his face is partially melted away, and you can see an exposed, slick, greenish-hued skull underneath. His lips form into a snarl, yet his eyes hold a deep question. Why? Why? And he begins to drone on to you, Bubbles, constantly repeating that question. As we shift back downstairs to Arthur, Kari, and Rastoban, the 3 remaining rat-like creatures, go ahead and roll me a nature check if you would like to see if you know what these things are.
16 for Rastaban.
A 5 for Arthur. I
And
don't
that
think they have
makes-
these underwater.
Right, that makes complete sense. Guild rats, probably not a thing. So, Rastaban, these things, even though you rolled well, these things kind of fade in from your memory. You've probably heard more tales about them than actually experienced them. These are what some people would refer to as ratkin or rathirum. They serve this for the most part in this region and further away, it's kind of a legendary empire known as the Crimson Throne. Something about a sorcerer king or emperor and a throne that bleeds and a cauldron that's used to summon creatures up. There's all this myth and stuff, but you recognize these things as being exactly that. That these are probably most likely fit that description as being Rathirum. And both of you can definitely see that there's something that's non-visible that seems to be driving them or holding them here and keeping them from flying. So what did you guys get? I know that Arthur Kari got a 20, was that correct?
Yes, natural 20.
And what did you get, Rastaban?
A 22.
Wow. So both of you noticed the 2 that have fallen on the ground. Well, the one that fell on the ground and the one that was so abruptly placed upon the ground by the maul. You notice their clothing kind of begin to sink to the floor. And just as they came in with the shadows wrapped around them, you notice the shadows begin to kind of pull from the floor and away from the wall, crawling up in fingers over the tops of their fallen bodies and begin to kind of somehow either suck them back in or remove, because you see them begin to kind of flow back into this inky blackness, being kind of dispersed and their bodies disappearing. The other three, having their spines stiffened by some unknown force, a bit of reluctance giving way to an understanding that this is their calling, this is where they're supposed to be. Two of them sidestep to the right, shifting to engage Arthur Kari. You are much more impressive a figure than these two wiry rat-like creatures with their long, slender blades, but they nonetheless engage you. You can see still a reluctance in their eyes. They both flash out with these long, slender, stiletto-like blades. Moonlight and lantern light playing off of them. This is going to be a campaign for the ages here. As one of them slides over and the other one not quite as far, the one right in front of you, Arthur, the one that would have been engaging you, had his eyes not just bulged out of his head with a look of horror and shock. This squeak kind of erupts out of him as his body arches forward. And it arches forward in two stages. First, the chest pushing, and then it's pushing forward. And you can see his head crank behind him as the blade of his compatriot punctures through his chest, the one having just slid at the wrong time in front of the other. The blade punctures through 4 inches of cold, blood-covered stiletto pokes out towards you. You could hear the one behind, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And he pulls it out really quickly. So you see the blade come out and then get pulled back through. A sucking sound as blood, a crimson patch begins to form across the chest of the first one. His eyes kind of begin to unfocus. He drops down in front of you, dropping to his knees, and almost instantaneously as his knees hit the floor, those shadows spin around in fingers running like rivers over his body and begin to pull him back in. When they pull him back in, though, it's not like they're physically pulling his body. It's almost as if he's becoming one with the shadow itself and kind of dissipating back into the shadow. His eyes kind of eventually roll back. He falls forward, his head hitting the floor and turning so that his one eye, the last thing he does is look up at you. His yellow eye eventually going empty, and as life escapes from him. His friend is sitting there, a look of terror and shock. He's focused on this blade, his small little hand wrapped in a leather glove. It's shaking. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. That's all he keeps repeating. The other one, the one that had the blue glow in his hand, releases forward. And when he releases forward, you see a couple blurred out kind of, they look like bolts of arcane energy, Rastoban, and they reach towards you in a flash, slamming into you for a whole whopping 3 points of damage as they explode across your chest. When they don't take you, you can see this one now. You can see nerves. If he was able to sweat, you would see his fur beginning to mat and all that as they realize they're heavily outmatched. But again, there's something that is holding and keeping them here. Rastoban, you go ahead. You've got the jump on them still. You have these two standing there. The one is still looking down at the blade, shaking, I'm sorry. And the other one having just cast some kind of arcane spell at you.
The one who just cast, how far away is he from everybody?
He's within 10 feet of you.
And is he within 5 feet of anybody else?
Yeah, he's within 5 feet of both Rostabon and the other one.
Okay. The other. I will charge forward to the arcane caster and attempt to. Oh, how do I want to do this? Attempt to basically drop my shoulder in and tackle him and pin him to the ground.
Okay. Go ahead and roll an athletics.
That is an 18.
That is an 18. Time for new dice.
You need dice jail?
Yeah, I need dice prison. You charge across the room with quickness, with accuracy, slamming into this creature. When you make contact with them, even though you are actually smaller in stature than this creature is, you are surprised with the force that you hit him with. And you quickly realize that as you hit him, he was readying something. So you caught him completely unawares, and you carry him all the way across over a stool or over a chair by a table, and his head slams with a sickening thud into the wall behind him. You hear a snap. Kali. And just as you are focused on the window and the creaking, you hear the floorboards snap, as if somebody stepping on the very edge, maybe that connects to a wall, and maybe because of the salt air and the age of the wood, it grabbed the wall itself and then let go with a loud cracking or snapping sound. This comes directly just about behind Bubbles, although Bubbles seems to be completely aware as she's focused for some reason on this empty window. Yeah, the thing opening by itself was creepy, but there's nothing there that you see. But you do hear this sound. Cadence, go ahead and roll me a perception check along with Kali, please.
Natural 20.
Wow. Good for you.
Can I have your guys' dice?
Nope.
I don't want Jens's dice.
Nope, you don't. 8.
All right. So, Kali, you actually see from behind Bubbles, you see the shadows begin to split. You see literally as if something was emerging from a black liquid pond or a curtain of silk or satin. You see this inky blackness pull away directly behind her, and then you see two spots, one off to the left and one off to the right, likewise begin to pull away. You don't see any weapons immediately, but you begin to hear this light pulling sound as if somebody's getting ready to release something. You hear a finger feathering a trigger. You can see that one of these figures, you sense that they're holding maybe a crossbow or something like that. You can hear or sense that somebody's drawing forth steel. And you think you hear, wrapped in the shadows and in the darkness, alas in Thranal, alas in Thraday. As the shadows release three creatures that make your breath catch in your throat. All three of them, as they come back, their cloaks pull away. These three individuals also, well, two of them appear to be rat-like in stature, wiry, thin, dressed in black oiled leathers from head to toe. one of them pulling out and drawing forth two long, slender blades, very saber-like in appearance. The other one pulling out a short sword and a dagger. But it's the third one that catches your attention more than the other two, because hanging affixed to his shoulder from what looks like nails driven into his skin and bone hangs a 4-foot-long piece of what appears to be bloody parchment. Upon this is written several hundred lines in a script that you can't quite make out. He is standing maybe 3 feet behind Bubbles, who's transfixed on something you can't see. His hand is reaching out towards the back of her head. Arthrin on through wall. And you begin to see this inky blackness begin to engulf his hand and slide forward, tendrils reaching towards the back of your total friend's head. You've seen it. I will give you one free action.
A free action, or do
Yep.
I get a whole turn?
Free action.
I'm just going. Can I kind of grab Bubbles and cast Warding Wind around both of us?
Let me get my thingy here. Let me take a look really quick.
It's around a 10-foot radius.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just kind of grab her and cast Warding Wind to try to like separate us from the bad guys.
Yeah.
I think that works.
Yep.
Okay.
So you're sitting there, Cadence. You're actually quite happily unaware of anything that really seems to be going on in here. I mean, Bubbles is sitting there zoning out on these paneled shutters that opened up, and she's looking horrified as if something is coming at her or something like that, or something's talking to her. You see Kali snap in to action, evoking with words a chant that kind of begins to swirl around her and then envelops pretty much the entire room in this strong roaring wind. As it spins, you notice, Kali, two of them, the ones that were carrying blades, kind of jump back, the shadows once again pulling around them, pulling them in. And at this moment, you realize that they weren't stepping from the shadows themselves. It was almost as if they were unmelding themselves with the wood and the darkness itself, rather than hiding and skulking in the shadows. The one that was apparently reaching out for the back of Bubbles' head, his eyes kind of grow wide, but not in surprise, more out of an understanding, as he calmly shifts his gaze over towards you as the wind begins growing. So you're the one that the mistress told us about. This is going to be much more fun, child. There are those that you wish to interfere with me and us. We will interfere with you and yours. And he pulls back, almost in this movie-style spin, like almost like you would expect to see Dracula do in a 30s movie. Spins backwards, the shadows envelop him, driving him and pulling him back in, as all three of them pull back into the shadows. Again, Cadence, the wind's roaring, Bubbles is zoning out, and you're just kind of sitting there going, wow, that's weird. Strange, definitely. You don't see any of the people or anything like that, but Cadence, I'll give you an insight.
Okay.
Not Cadence, I'm sorry, Collie. Sorry.
Okay.
Give me a second.
Okay. We're going to use the one that gave me a natural 20 in the last roll. Oh, that fell off the table. Oh, it's not great. It's a inside. It's a 9 total.
It's a 9 total. So yeah, he pulls back, and the other 3 they pull back into the shadows. You get the distinct impression they're pulling back not out of necessity, but out of other reasons. Bubbles, this wind rips up around you. Go ahead and roll me a wisdom save.
$16.
This wind slams into the vision of the children. Their wispy, ghost-like, green-tinged bodies begin to disintegrate right into your eyes. This wind is spinning around 20, 30 miles an hour around the room like a mini cyclone, focused in kind of around you, Kali, and pulling Cadence into it as well. You're completely unaware of what just happened behind you. But seeing these children literally ripped apart in front of you, they don't just dissipate. You literally see an arm ripped, and the child look in horror as his arm flies off. But the one that gets you the most is the little girl, because you see her hand reach out, and this is the first time, maybe the trauma of what happened that night so long ago was so intense that you forgot about her dolly. As her hand reaches out and this wind rips her doll from her, she goes to stand up, the wind slicing through her, ripping her small frame apart. She tumbles into the darkness out the window. All 3 of them an echo. Why do you hate us so? And it fades out. You find yourself in the same room you were in before, but wind is ripping through the wind. You see Kali standing there chanting, a look of concentration upon her face as she's maintaining this wind ripping through the room. Kali, what are you going to do? Are you going to continue to maintain it, or are you going to let it go?
I'm going to continue to maintain concentration.
Okay.
And
So
I'm going to say,
yeah.
Get away from us, now.
The last thing that you see is this ratkin, this creature that you're not really familiar with. You've never seen anything quite like this one. The other ones were about 4 feet and kind of wiry and that sort of thing. This one was wiry, but he was more in the area of 5.5 to almost 6 feet. Very sinister, dark black eyes where the other ones had yellow. His teeth were jagged as if they had been filed, and you could see that they were capped with some kind of a dark material. And you think for a brief moment that you might have actually seen runes carved into his teeth. But the thing that sticks out in your mind is that piece of parchment. Because as you see him fold back into the shadows, his inky black eye looking at you, a sneering smile of knowing and of vengeance creasing his face. You see that piece of bloodied parchment and you hear it snap, even in the wind, as blood shoots out across the room, sprays around, and gets caught in the wind. And you realize at this moment in time that it was not parchment. It was skin. It was
That was coming.
flesh. and they
Gross.
disappear back into the shadows. The roaring wind from up here does not allow you to hear what happens downstairs as that head thuds into the wall, Rastoban. You caught him squarely, and like I said, it was as if he was preparing something else, was not ready for a charge, and he broke in front of you and folded. As you come over the stool, his head slams with a sickening thud into the wall behind. And as you come to the ground, Arthur Curry, as you see this, you can see a crimson smear, a 6-inch red line as his head scrapes across. As you come to a rest and you look up, Rastoban, you see no life in this creature's eyes. However, you are an inch or maybe 2 from his face, and you can see these inky black tendrils reaching out to pull him back in. And as these tendrils kind of wrap around his head and almost like fingers interlock and blur his face and begin to pull him back in, I want you to roll me a perception. And I'm going to, since you were so close, I'm going to give you advantage.
Ooh.
Ooh.
17 total.
17. You see just ever so briefly as those fingers wrap around and interlock. Across them is almost like a screen behind a puppet show. You see a very dark black chamber, thick with heavy smoke. You can hear almost as you see all of these maybe 50 robed bodies, heavy black robes with crimson red runes, either stitched, no, not stitched because they're glowing, kind of pulsing with this deep Hastan Inara, Hastan Inara. And as the room kind of begins to glow, you see this enormous black iron cauldron sitting on crowed out clawed feet over what appears to be pulsing, glowing red skull-sized gems. You can see a bubbling liquid ever so briefly in it. And you see 3 figures kind of appear out of nowhere and approach another figure that's wrapped in shadow. You can't quite make out the form, but just briefly you see something that it's holding as this creature, as one of the 3 that comes forward, drops to a knee in front of it, bows down. You can play out in your head that there is some form of a conversation going on between them. And you see a shadowed, what you would think would be a hand, you can't quite make out the details, release off of this item and touch his head. You can see his body stiffen as he rises. As he rises, there's a shift in the big body, and you see a very long mace in its hands. This mace is you see briefly crimson and silver runes wrapping up it, but that's where everything kind of goes black as this thing's head melds back into the scene in front of you.
Before he's totally gone back into the shadows, I'd like to attempt to rifle through any pockets I can find to find any indication of what or who these things are.
Okay, go ahead and roll me a sleight of hand.
That +8 helps, so 21.
Yeah.
Damage dice, thank you so much for the 230 bits. We will put that to good work for sure. So you, as the shadows begin to engulf its body and pull it into the shadows, you with a very deft touch, a very trained hand, snap out, and you manage to snag at first what you think is its pouch. But as the shadows begin to pull it, you can actually see this black leather pouch elongate. And as it elongates, you see it tear and a few coins drop out of it. but your fingers remain attached to something that's fairly hard. And as it pulls away, you were left with this, and it's basically a piece of black, very fine torn leather, the bottom part of the pouch, and you can feel in your fingers that you are indeed holding something. And at this point, we are going to take our break for the night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Please hang out with us for a little bit longer. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. We've got about another hour to an hour and a half to go on tonight's festivities. I hope you're enjoying it. Thank you for spending time with us, and we'll see you guys in about 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
welcome, folks. Thank you for sticking around. Really cool to see those numbers out there in chat. Hope everybody's having a blast. I know we are. So if you are new to this channel, what we call Forged at the Table, and you're trying to figure out exactly what the heck it is we got going on here, you're going to notice that all 5 of these players here are subscribers, followers, or in some other way involved with this channel. What we do here at Forged at the Table is we want to build a community where everybody gets to play games. We have... In the middle part of May, we will have, I believe, either 10 or 11 different campaigns going on this channel. We will have a game on here 7 days a week, it's looking like. All of those games but one. That means there's going to be 8 or 9 games that are going to involve nothing but a DM and 4 to 6 players who are followers and subscribers of this channel. So if you want to get involved in playing some games, it's really, really simple. Just drop a follow on our channel here on Twitch and get involved in our Discord, which the wonderful moderator just put up the information for you. Get involved in our Discord. Great group of people, wonderful community, and we will see what we can do about getting you guys into some games. We have quite a few openings still open right now. We got some Cthulhu coming up. We got 2 more versions of D&D coming up. And we also have some special things coming up in the future, which I'm not at liberty to talk about, but we do have some guest DMs coming up. And I will guarantee you, definitely this fall, you're going to want to be a follower at least for the shot to get in on one of those games. So, without further ado...
Oh my God, don't tease us like that! Sorry!
Come on, Jen. You're gonna-
Tease us!
You plan on getting in on all of the games, Jen. What does it matter?
I know. I'm gonna have to. You guest DJs, or DJs. DMs.
I think we do need an in-house DJ though.
Dropping those sick beats.
All right, and without
I used
further
to DJ in
ado,
Second Life.
let's get back into this whole wonderful mess we find ourselves in. So you wind up with that little bit of torn leather that wasn't retrieved by the shadows, Rastaban. You can feel that there's something solid still wrapped inside of it. It's not very much coin-like at all. What are you going to do?
Well, since we are still in the heat of battle, I'm gonna stop doing what I'm doing and take a look at what I found.
Since you're in the heat of battle, we're going to stop there. All right, Arthur Kari. I don't know exactly how you'd react to what happens next, but this ratkin type creature kind of gurgles out of his mouth and takes his dagger, turns it in one fluid motion, and sinks it into his chest. A gurgling, soft sound. I returned whence I came. And he drops at the floor.
Can I step forward before he falls and try and grab him and lift him in the air?
Yeah, make me a dexterity.
I'm so good at dexterity. I'm
Yes.
the best at dexterity.
I always try to pick the best things for paladins.
I got a 10.
You got a 10. You reach out, and before you can reach out and grab onto his body, he falls to the ground, drapes over the last very small remnants of shadow that were pulling his friend back, and they quickly begin to envelop him and do likewise.
I turn to Rastaban and I say, "This time it wasn't my fault. I tried to keep one alive."
Well, my friend, that is quite all right. I found a little trinket, and I hold up the whatever I found and show it to him.
As you fold out the leather, what you uncover is a simple golden ring. Carved on it, on a flat face, almost like a signet ring, is a rose wrapped around what appears to be an unblinking eye.
Oh,
Do
yes.
I recognize this at all?
Roll a religion.
Righty. So I am a very religious man.
You're more religious than the paladin, which is funny.
That is an 18.
That is an 18. You recall seeing the symbol probably somewhere here in Stormhaven, maybe etched on the outside of the plentiful white stuccoed kind of buildings that are quite frequent around here. And you recall it being something to do with a goddess that crosses the line between love and pain. And as this comes over your mind, and as you recall this information, you're holding this ring and you glance down at it, that's when you actually see that, yes, there are thorns on the rose vine that's wrapping around the eye, and they appear to be piercing the eye itself. The name, though, escapes you, although in your mind you can definitely smell a very sweet, enticing, and almost aphrodisiac style perfume. It's almost so real that your heart rate increases just a little bit. Your skin a little flush, almost similar to, say, a schoolgirl close to getting her first kiss. Roll me a wisdom save.
Uh-oh.
Oh God.
You thought the love with the gnome and the halfling was something? How about a halfling and a triton? Let's go for no.
Oh God.
That is a total of 9.
Total of 9. Arthur Kari, there for a minute you see, or a few seconds, you see Rastoban's eyes kind of gloss over strangely as he kind of looks off into the distance at the wall. You can see his face become flush, his breathing increasing. You can almost picture or hear the pattering of the little halfling's heart. Go ahead and roll me an insight.
Nat 20.
Nat 20.
Wow.
This halfling, everything about him screams love, infatuation, but there's a dark tinge around it. There is just something not right about it, like heartbreak at the end of it.
Can I try and slap the ring out of his hand? Do I think that that's causing it, or?
Yeah, you can do that.
I walk over. Get a hold of yourself, man.
As your hand meets his, stop it. I'm not that sick. Everybody out there that's thinking it, stop it. The ring skips out of his hand, hitting the wall and tinking off somewhere in the shadows. You, Rastaban, pull your senses back. Your heart settles down. But you, Arthur Kari, you hear a very sing-songy, light, feminine voice fill the room just briefly. Oh, that was so manly.
No.
The voice you hear is that of Afira Denal, the lady of ill-acquainted love. She is a mischievous goddess, one of hundreds of gods and goddesses here in Atheln, and her realm is basically that of causing love and then breaking hearts and reveling in the pain that is caused by it.
I guess it's good that I didn't smack him across the face then. She would have liked that.
Did
Yeah, you
Rasmus get a
definitely
voice as
when you hear the voice, it's not. It's feminine but masculine at the same time. It's a very odd two-tone kind of a thing. Rastaban, you kind of come back to your senses. For a minute, you're kind of like a little bit lost as you're kind of down on your knees. Kind of, we're looking at your fingers, and then here comes Arthur Kari slapping it out of your hand. And now you look up at this Triton standing over you. The two of you begin to hear this kind of roaring sound. At first, it seems oddly out of place. It's the sound you would hear with a great storm raging across wide open plains, or at sea enveloping a ship, winds whipping around at high speed, things rustling about. You begin to hear this kind of rattling of floorboards above your head.
Briefly being thrown back into this, Rastaban exclaims, "Unfurl the mainsails! We gotta launch!"
Arthur looks around for some mainsails, and then picks the halfling up and shakes him a little bit.
Okay.
Do any gold?
We're on land.
Oh. Then finally snapping to the girls. What we should probably go check in on them, right?
I don't put him down. I just tuck him under my arm and run up the stairs. It's a maneuver we've practiced before. It's faster.
This is true.
You make your way storming upstairs, and as you get up the stairs and enter into the hallway, you can literally see like dust being blown through the hallway, emitting out of the room that you know that Kali, Candace, and Bubbles were staying in, as your room was right across the way from theirs. Dust blowing about. You can see these thin boards kind of flapping and smashing against and trying to strain free from the nails that are holding them. The door is shaking and rattling as you approach up to the door. What are you going to do?
I'm going to put Rastaban down behind me. I'm going to kick it in.
I slink behind Arthur.
And then, of course, I'm going to kick in the door because...
Strength, please.
Yes. Strength or athletics?
Strength.
Just straight strength, okay. 14.
Your foot makes contact with the door, and as I have already described numerous times, this place is built more on a shanty motif. It's not built to withstand things like this. The door buckles. Amazingly, the hinges actually hold it, one half of it to this side, and the other half, having been locked and bolted, holds the other side. Your foot splits the planks. They flip and step open, and in the room you see little Kali sitting there chanting and moving her hands and focusing at the center of this whirling maelstrom of wind that has now picked up hay from the hay mat. It has picked up a few of the candles. It has picked up a book out of the small little drawer that has been sucked out. So there's a book flying around.
Small cow.
I love that movie. And a bunch of other odds and ends, but yeah, you see Bubbles in there, you see Candace in there, and you see Kali at the center kind of focusing on this perfect storm, so to say.
I let my hammer kind of drop to my side, and I step to the side and look to Rastaban. Is this another of those strange surface customs you're always telling me I do not understand?
Absolutely it is.
What is the purpose of it? Explain.
I believe mating rituals, or possibly just sleepover. You know how ladies get together, pillow fights and such. This one looks like to have taken an odd turn.
Pillow fights. We do not have those beneath the waves. Pardon us, ladies. We will let you get back to it. And I walk back downstairs.
Rastaban just sits there and watches for a little bit.
Eventually, Kali, you begin to lose the spell. You're beginning to sweat a bit. You can maintain it, but it seems that the imminent threat has passed.
I'll drop it, and if Rastaban is still in the doorway, I'll be like, "Are you actually Rastaban, or are you one of those rat things?"
I'll pat myself down. I think I'm Rastaban. Give her a wink and a smile.
Prove it.
We've known each other for a while now, right? Or
Yeah, a few months.
how would I prove it? I use my I dash to the side and attempt to stealth.
Okay, go ahead and roll stealth.
That's a 10.
You dash ever so non-elegantly to the side. And you try to slide into what little bit of shadow that you can find. And as you do such, the book smacks you alongside your face. The parchment inside of this thick crimson and what appears to be white lettered, embossed lettering on it smacks you, taking you out of your attempts. You see this, Cully, and for some strange reason, he kind of does look like Rastaban.
Yeah, no, that's you. All right.
Never been smooth.
The book falls to the floor, comes to a rest. Everything else in the room, disheveled, tossed about, comes to a rest. The four of you can hear the heavier footfalls of Arthur Kari very nonsensically, like he's not putting up with any bullshit. Typical Arthur making his way back downstairs. What are the four of you going to do?
Oh, Cadence has a little hammock set up like in the corner with very colorful cloth, and it was by where the window flew open, I think. She totally, when the door got busted open, she totally sat up like perturbed. Like, what the hell is going on here with the wind? Because she is oblivious to everything else. And she kicked the door, or not the door, the shutter to the window so that it slams back closed. Can't a girl just get some sleep around here? What's going on? Because she's oblivious. She didn't know what's going on. What's happening?
Did you not see them? Any of them? The rat things and the weird teeth and the scroll made out of skin?
No, all I felt was some wind whipping around like a tornado. Like,
Yeah, that's on
damn.
that's on me. Right.
You-
But
I did.
did you see them, Bubbles?
Did I see them? No, I was just focused on the... No, I didn't see anything.
No, but what were you focused on? Because that wasn't
Nothing, no.
Wait, Collie, you said rat things?
Yeah, there were three of them. Two were, more average looking rat things, if that is a way to describe it. And then one of them was had these teeth that were sharpened and had runes on them, and he had this scroll made out of skin with blood. And I think he knew me. I don't know. I've never seen them before, so I don't know how he knew me, but I got scared. I'm sorry.
Well, we saw some of those rat things downstairs. They threatened to kill our turtle friend, and so me, being the debonair, dashing, charismatic and wonderful man that I am, dispatched every single one of those whelps by myself. Arthur stand there doing nothing, like usual.
Yes, right.
But yes, we did see some of those rat things.
I don't know what rat things you're talking about. You guys are crazy.
They wanted me?
Yeah, they said, "Where's your turtle friend?" And I said, "You shall never find her." And I think I gave that away that you were around.
Whoops.
They must have meant some other turtle. It couldn't have been me.
How many turtles are there in this particular region?
This is the only turtle any of you, including the mighty Arthur Kari, would have ever seen. They are exceedingly rare.
Definitely a different turtle.
Yeah, because there's so many other turtles around.
Jesus.
From downstairs, you hear a growl and the splintering of wood as Arthur pulls his trident from where it was embedded in the wall.
Since we're all awake, maybe we should go get a damn drink, guys, because
I
damn.
agree.
Rasputin's eyes light up. Drink? I had just found some wonderful, wonderful drinks downstairs.
Oh,
we might
really?
be able to
I am in with that. Let's go.
pop open that bottle.
I don't know if we should be drinking when we were just attacked. I don't want to reflexes dulled in any way if they come back.
There's no better time to start drinking than after an attack.
Nope.
I just head out the door.
Yep.
All right. So everybody, are you all going to gather your way back downstairs in the main tap room?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah, Bubbles, there you are. I'm sorry to have interrupted your mating ritual. That must have been what that rat man meant when he said the fornicating turtle.
What?
I just look at him completely confused. What?
Yes, the rat man that I crushed. He
And
said,
I shoot a look at Rostabon.
he said, where is that
Liar.
fornicating turtle? And I said, I don't know what she does in her spare time, but... And then Rastaban informed me that I accidentally kicked the door in on your mating ritual. Sorry.
What?
And he bows deeply.
What?
That's what I'm
Rastaban, am I
saying.
using incorrect words? Explain it for me.
No, that was perfect. You handled yourself very well. Very eloquently said, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. I am learning leaps and bounds under your tutelage.
Rastaban heads over to the bar and opens up the bottle of
Oh my
Fane's
God.
Calling.
Everybody roll me, when he opens up that bottle, roll me a perception check, please.
Oh, God.
All right, light up die.
Gosh, come on, be something better than a 7.
We will start with Kali.
I
It's an
need more
8.
dice. I need more dice. Send
Arthur
help.
Kari.
6.
Wow. Bubbles.
5.
Yes!
Rostaban.
20!
All right. Candace.
6.
Cadence. 6.
Kate.
Oh my God. So all of you are completely unaware, but Rostaban, talk about intoxicating. When you undo the wax off the crystalline cap and you pull the corking out of it, it slides with an ever so soft and thrumming pop. And this amber and cigar and smoked leather and brown sugar, a light hint of caramel wafts out of it, and you can hear the deep thrum coming from inside this bottle of dwarven drums and bagpipes as it wafts up and out with the scent wrapping around your head. That in and of itself, a lot of times, is enough to drive most men to stab over this. But a good thing is it's apparent that your friends are completely unaware of what exactly it is that you have opened. Sitting just at fingertips reach is a beautiful crystalline Scotch glass with a narrow top and a wider bottom, just beckoning to be filled ever so slightly with this liquid of the gods.
I pour everyone, just half a shot. I'm talking hardly anything. And I'll give myself a double.
All right. Rastaban takes this decanter. You all see the decanter and the liquid that's inside it. The light from the oil lamps and stuff inside the small tap room filters through it, and you see this immaculate golden satiny amber liquid inside as he pours out 5 glasses of it. And as it actually comes out of the decanter and pours out, you all smell these notes of caramel and cashew and leather and cigar. And off in the distance, you think, strangely, it's an odd time for a fife and drum corps to be on parade, because somewhere out there you hear this drumming and these bagpipes lost in the sounds of the docks, the few seabirds that are making noise, and the few bells and the bobbings of ships, and the tight ropes that are straining to hold down whatever it is they're holding down. The scotch is immaculate. Who all is going to take a drink of it?
Be rude not to.
Yeah.
I am going to watch until somebody else drinks some.
All right,
I'll do it.
So Bubbles, we have Bubbles, Arthur Kari, Rastaban. Are you taking some there, Collie?
Oh, I definitely.
All right, the 4 of
I would
you
not
roll
be
me a
polite.
Constitution
What?
save. And as the liquid touches your lips, Rastaban, you remember hearing something about the fact that this stuff is rough on those of non-dwarven stature. And it's going to be proven perfectly right here. So starting with Collie, what did you get?
14.
Bubbles.
9.
All right. Rastaban.
21.
All right. And we know what Arthur Kari got.
Natural 1.
So Arthur Kari, Bubbles, Collie, and Rastaban, you pour back this liquid. And Arthur Kari and Bubbles, maybe it's something about water going constitutions or whatever it is, but as it touches your lips and you take it down, it hits like a truck. You immediately begin to get the sweats, your skin growing clammy. You feel very, very nauseous and woozy. Your heads begin to swirl around. Arthur Kari, you feel your body completely disjointed, like nothing, like you try to move this hand forward and you're seeing vapor trails. But you're not seeing vapor trails because you're trying to move this hand, and this is the one that comes up and begins caressing your face. Everybody that's able to see Arthur Kari, Bubbles, you're like gone. You're nauseous. You feel like you're gonna throw up, but you're even able to still see this. Everybody begins to witness as Arthur Kari begins to discover the world around him in different colors and different like textures and all that, as he begins kind of touching himself and touching the bar, and you can see these looks of confusion because he'll be looking at this hand, or then he'll look at this hand, and you can see him look at something like he wants to touch. And there's one moment there where like his eyes maybe get transfixed on Bubbles' carapace, on her shell, and he looks at this hand and looks at it and does this and winds up rubbing his chest, and everything he's touching he's enjoying. And then you see it happen as his eyes kind of defocus, glaze over, roll back, and Arthur Kari goes off the back of the stool, landing with a thud on the floor, a deep, heavy snore kind of bubbling like water coming up and out of him. Bubbles, you're close to where he's at. Your stomach's roiling. You're greener than you may normally be. You begin to go ahead and roll me one more Constitution, please.
Oh, 19.
19. The effects of the alcohol are quite potent, quite strong, and you can feel yourself slipping off to La La Land. But you sit there, and for whatever reason it is, there's a moment, and this has happened in the past, there's a moment of this anger, and it usually comes within about an hour or so of one of your nightmares. You get pissed off because, damn it, you did not mean for these children to die. That was not your intention. You're getting sick and tired of being haunted by them, and it's only getting worse. You've actually just recently begun seeing them during the daylight hours. And this anger drives up, and you're just like, and swallow it back. And when you swallow it back, with a gulp, you pull back into your shell, and everybody sees Bubbles pull into her shell. Her shell kind of do one of these warble things, and you can hear this come from inside the shell. Both Arthur Kari and Bubbles unable to handle the liquor. You, Kali, and Rastaban are. And Candace, you're standing there.
I wanted to try something if I can.
Yeah.
I see that the bottle was that it was all fancy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Would I be aware that it's valuable, something special?
Yeah, you could tell. Yeah, you would. Yeah, everybody'd easily be able to tell that decanter's expensive.
And what did Rasta Man do with the bottle after he poured the drinks?
I probably just sat it down on the bar.
Because I want to try to take it.
All right, so exactly how are you going to do this? You have Arthur Kari now lied passed out, snoring great bubbly snores on the ground. It sounds like the ocean itself is inhaling and exhaling. You have Bubbles in her shell that's just now starting to settle, but there's this kind of sloppy, disgusting coming from inside her shell. Rastaban's right there, and so is Kali. They do not seem to be suffering any ill effects from the alcohol.
Because that's why I wanted to wait to take my drink, and then hopefully the other two are a little bit distracting to them, but I'll come up to, I will come around the side of Rastaban and put my arm around him and be all winky at him and try to snag the belt off of the bar.
All right, go ahead and roll me a sleight of hand.
I'll be telling him how awesome he was for taking care of all those rat things.
And a perception.
Oh my god! Oh, I got a natural.
A perception from you, Rastaban.
I can't believe I got a natural 20 on that. Oh
Come
my
on,
god!
baby. Come on.
Which, with sleight of hand, I get a plus.
I rolled a nat 2.
22. Sorry, I got all excited.
You find yourself briefly, I guess, distracted by the coming ons of Cadence. She brushes up against you, her full round breasts. Even though she's a bit of an odd creature, there is something a bit attractive about her form. Kind of like a 13-year-old WoW player seeing his first Draenei. and for a brief moment, you are drawn into her feminine wiles. And then that's it. What do you do, Cadence? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and roll me. We'll call it a dex, just a straight up dex to see if you can react. A straight up dex.
That is a 19.
That is a 19 with smoothness that almost takes your breath away, Cadence. The nimble Rastaban, full halfling lips press into yours.
I'm towering over him.
Yeah, this. Yeah, he as you kind of press into him and try to distract him, he quickly reaches up and pulls you to him. His lips meeting yours. this deep, impassioned kiss. How is Cadence going? How would Cadence react to this before I do any more here?
Is she getting the bottle?
You have the bottle. Yes, you have the bottle in your hands.
Oh my god.
She totally gets into it then, and she puts the bottle into her somewhere under
Love
her
is
cloak
in
or
the
something.
air. So
Gives it all she's got.
all right. So yeah, you two and Collie, this is happening like smack in front of you. Never been any kind of love interest that you've ever seen, but whatever is in this bottle is just wrecking things. You have Arthur, who's a stout warrior from the seas that has been knocked down by just one simple drink. Bubbles, probably stress or other things she's pulled in, and now Cadence has come up and her and Rastaban are doing the 16-year-old back of the car. They're getting it going. I mean, it's you would almost expect, because when you saw Rastaban reach up and plant the kiss, you'd almost think for an instance that Cadence would pull away, but she seems to enjoy it and embraces it.
It's not even that good.
And then finally, when they do break apart, she's like, "Whoo!" and she takes her drink and slams it back.
Roll me a Constitution check.
Oh Lord, have mercy on me.
She's gonna pay for that 20. Oh,
Yes,
she's paying for that 20.
It was fun though. She had a good time.
Oh yeah, she it's the fun times aren't done. Cadence, as you pull that and you imbibe, I don't know if what it is, but the liquid comes out of this crystalline decanter with rapid speed, and you wind up gulping down fully a third of the bottle that's there.
Whoa.
I just meant to take my shot, man.
It wraps you. Well, it could very possibly be the heat of the moment. You're and you slam it back, and this raging warmth embraces your body, burns deeply, but burns in a good way. And your eyes come down and land upon Rastaban.
Oh my god.
His
Hey, baby.
debonair, dashing face. That kiss. Oh, that kiss was amazing. And your heart picks up in pace. You lose control of yourself. Collie, you're there, and Cadence with this her spine stiffening, this lustful passion in her eyes, grabs on to Cadence or to Rastaban, sweeping Rastaban up into her arms. Are you going to fight this, Rastaban?
Yes, I'd like to throw a single finger onto her lips.
Okay. Okay.
What's happening?
Wait, love. The first one was for free.
How much coin do you have, Cadence?
Oh my god, I don't got anything, I don't think, right now. Hold on. We didn't get anything to start with, right? I have 15 gold.
You produce a pouch jangling with gold coins. She pulls this up in front of you, Rastaban, and drops the pouch, opening it upon the bar. And 15 coins, gold crowns, come sliding out.
It's very, very close. But I'm going to need that decanter back.
She sighs. She knows she's been caught. It's like, I can't believe I didn't get that after a 20. Okay, give him the bottle.
You give him the bottle back, but there's something sour about this. You're fully under the sway of the Thane's calling, you hear this droll kind of melancholy music in your mind. This pathetic, unworthy little sniveling, conniving halfling has rejected you, has pushed you away, and you, Collie, see tears begin to flow down Cadence's cheeks as her fingers, and she lets out a cry and dashes out into the street, disappearing with great heaving cries and sobs into the night.
Would I
She's
have time to
broke
get
and
a
has no
spell off?
liquor.
What was that?
Would I have time to get a spell off, maybe?
What do you have that's reaction based?
I don't have any reaction
Nope.
spells. Okay.
Nope. Almost instantly as she hands over the decanter, this breaks over her and she charges out into the night, her heart having been shattered, and you can hear disappearing into the darkness these sobs and wails of forlorn and lost love.
Nobody loves me.
Holly and Rastaban, you're left there with a sleepy Triton and a sleeping turtle and the rest of the scotch.
You're an asshole.
Yes.
For a second,
But
I was
got
like,
a
who?
drink.
Him or me?
I am Rastaban. Both, I guess. I am going. Collie is very weak. She cannot lift, and I don't think Rastaban would be able to lift a Triton or a turtle. But Collie is going to say, "You're going to get her and bring her back," and then she's going to turn into a bear, so that she can carry her heavier companions up to their room.
Okay.
I'm only 200 pounds. Come on.
Yes, but I have a -1 strength, so.
Yeah.
But yeah,
All right.
I'm
So
turn into a bear.
Better
Collie
than me.
tongue lashes you not in the way you probably wanted, Rastaban. She lays into you. What are you going to do?
I'm gonna pour myself another drink, and then sauntily make my way out the door after our Miss Cadence.
All right. There we go. So, Collie, you spend the next few moments, probably 25, 30 moments, getting your compatriots back upstairs. In the meantime, Rastaban, as you exit out the front doors, you cast a glance to the left, and you can see, ducking around a corner, goes the sobbing, crying, broken-hearted Cadence, your victim.
I'm gonna follow her at a distance.
You're gonna follow her at a distance. Cadence, you rove the streets, trying to find some place to bury your broken heart. This little man, he was handsome. Yes, charmingly conniving.
Roguishly handsome.
Yes, you weigh his drawbacks with his non-drawbacks. The scales balancing and tipping evenly. When a figure steps out from the wall of the alley that you find yourself in, accompanied by a couple other figures, they're dressed scruffily, not high class at all. They look kind of like sailors would. One has a tricorn hat on that has definitely seen better days. The other two, bright red bandanas covering their oily black hair. The one with the tricorn steps out, a almost moldy leather eye patch. As he comes forward, his hand fingers across the hilt of a very long, curving bladed sword. Hey, boys, look what we got here. Lassie, are you lost? This voice kind of begins to shatter your imaginings of the brave and dashing Rastuban. Go ahead and roll me another Constitution save.
Okay. Oh gosh. Okay. 17.
That is more than good enough. The veils.
Actually,
of the,
it's 19. So.
The veils of the alcohol pull away like the fingers of a silken curtain from your face, revealing in front of you that you somehow are no longer in the tap room with your friends. You are somewhere out on the streets, a back alley, and particularly as you kind of glance around, take in your surroundings, the broken, old, forgotten crates, the bedpans that have been emptied on the side of dilapidated buildings, smears of what their contents were along the wood. You can see faded colors of paint that over the past 15, 20 years have disappeared. All of this hits you with the smell and that gravelly voice. So, lass, I would be betting that you're lost. Is that true? And an anger wells up inside of you simply for the fact that you remember that little bastard dashing your advances against the bar like you were some kind of little schoolgirl. This anger roils in front of you as this figure with the tricorn hat steps forward, and the smell of urine, of old musty ship compartments, and of grog just rolls off of him. The urine smell coming from a yellow stain in his breeches as he leans towards you, pulling his hand off of his cutlass to reach out and place it on you. Go ahead, everybody. You and them, roll me initiative. I need a jail. I need a prison. I need a warden.
Why do I get 20s in these kind of things? I got a natural 20 and plus, wow. 3? My dex 20. Oh no, plus 2.
He reaches out to slide his hand behind your neck and pull you forward. You can see in his eyes, his every intention is not good. You've heard stories of back alleys and cities. You've heard stories of bodies being found after a not so pleasant experience, and you find yourself in one of those situations here and now. But as his drunk hand comes forward, his reactions far too slow for you. The fire from the alcohol, from your anger driving you forward. You have the drop on them. What are you going to do?
Oh, I am so totally going to cast Thunder Wave.
Okay.
Which they have to do a con save of, I think, 13, it says. Which they'll probably make it, but whatever.
All righty. Rastaban, you come around the corner to this alley. You've been following her for a good 10-15 minutes. For a heartbroken, possibly drunk tiefling, she moves quite nimbly, and you've been kind of staying behind. So as you catch up to her, you see her down this alley probably 60-70 feet, and you see her being approached by these 3 nasty, disheveled, drunken sailors. You can feel even at this distance their intentions with your tiefling friend. as she calls out with a very mystical, magical, enticing voice, and moves her hands in a very forceful way. This crack of thunder erupts out from in front of her, rolling out. You literally see it shaking the buildings that are closely set, maybe 6 feet apart in this alley, maybe 7. Boxes falling off, a couple of the older boxes crumbling away. You can see things breaking off that you can't describe from that was been stuck to the walls for quite a while. That's pretty cool. That is a pretty cool. So go ahead and roll damage for me.
Okay. So yeah, she stands up to her full height and she's like, no way, dude. I am cool. And wow. 7. But if they fail to save, they also anybody within 15 feet gets hit and pushed back 10 feet.
Yep.
Or is it 10 feet? Something like that.
So
7.
you slam out this wave of thunder. It rumbles out 300 feet in all directions, rattling the buildings. And some of these buildings are very, very poorly made, so we're actually going to roll to see if one of them falls.
It's only 15 feet.
This rumbles out, and your wave slams into them. The first one, the one that was reaching to you, takes the brunt of it and is slammed backwards, pushed. You can see him kind of leaning towards you, is pushed backwards. His compatriots, however, much more. Jen Swarmsy with the 300 bits. You get a reroll when you need it there, Jens. Thank you, Swarmsy.
I love you. I love you, Swarmsy.
So your wave hits the first one, pushes him back. The other two aren't so lucky. Your anger floods out towards the end of it. And as you snap the casting, I'm going to give you another D8 damage on these two.
Ooh, sweet. Okay, here we go. 4.
4. Rastaban, as you step into the alley and you see this, you hear the crescendo of her voice, and at the very end, like a loud crack of lightning, you can feel the anger emanate off of her slight frame as it cracks outwards. As this final blast hits the other two, his buddies, you see them kind of fold over their shoulders as being punched by an invisible fist. And you see them twist and rake, and blood sprays out of their mouths, their eyes rolling back and at the same time opening in shock as you lace through them. The other one, damaged, wounded, he holds out a hand. Lass, mercy. And his eyes grow wide. You have just dispatched 2 of them. And this one is sitting there, and you can actually see a bit of blood coming out of his mouth. And he tries to push himself away. Mercy. What are you going to do?
Well, I'm going to go walk over there to him, the one that's still alive. Is he on the ground?
He's down on his knees, got one hand down. He's kind of holding his hand up, like begging for mercy from you.
I'll go walk over to him, and if I can, push him down with my foot. And if I can put my foot down on his neck and like give him the point and go, "Don't mess with the fire star." And then if I can stop him and cause some damage, I would do that. But if not, I will turn very proudly and walk away.
So you can finish him if you want to finish him.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if I can.
You can grind your heel into his throat. Whatever.
Yes,
All right.
that's what.
All right,
I
roll me a
wanna stomp
d6. Roll me a d6 damage
Okay,
as you press down with the heel.
4.
He begins to gurgle, his eyes bulge as he starts to choke. You press down with the ball of your heel. You feel his windpipe crush down into his throat. Bubbles of air escape out, tinged at first lightly pink and then fuller with more blood as you send this one down as well. You turn away, kind of satisfaction. You turn away, and at the far end of the alley, you see that little bastard Rostaban.
I give a hair flip.
Run!
I give him a little hair flip, like ain't no thing. And all I wanted was that bottle anyway, so I will just walk back.
All right.
Satisfied now. I got my aggression out.
All right. So, Rostaban, Cadence, you're gonna return to the inn.
As she walks down the alley back towards me, just a slow clap.
Thank you. Thank you. We will never speak of that again.
Fair enough.
Everybody returns back to the inn. Night does. I mean, exhaustion sets in and all of that. But you guys make your way back upstairs. You come into the one room that wasn't thoroughly damaged by the wind, and you see, Kali, you're still awake then?
Yeah, I'm waiting up for them.
Okay, you see, as you kind of come walking into the room, you see Kali kind of sitting there with her arms crossed. Arthur Kari snoring deeply, bubbling like the ocean. Every once in a while, you actually see a little bubble just bloop out of his mouth. And over in her shell, tucked away, you hear bubbles. And Kali sitting there waiting for you.
Okay.
Ah, Kali. Seem to have waited up for us. How are you?
Don't all collie me.
Ah, Kali?
Golly.
Both of you get to bed.
There's one
Yes,
more thing I
Mom.
need to do before I go to bed.
Yes.
Taking out the decanter, I'd like to. Do I know the mead barrels, the enchanted ones, the ones that never run out?
Yeah.
Can I kind of tell what color they run out at?
What exactly are you looking for? Just the colors that come pour out of them?
To match as closely as I can the liquid in the decanter matching shade to one of the barrels, so that when I fill it up, it kind of looks somewhat similar.
It would probably take a combination of the three to do it, and to get it right, to get the color. I'd say give me a sleight of hand.
That is a 26.
The dwarves, the Thanelands of Angvar, would be proud of your reproducing their amber and golden leather colored liquid. And yeah, you come very spot on to what it was.
And it was sealed with wax, correct?
Yes, a royal purple wax. As
best that I can, I'd like to take a little bit of flame from a candle and remelt the wax to reseal it.
Okay. I'm going to take another sleight of hand on the wax.
Come on, baby. Natural 20.
Oh, God.
Holy
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice.
Love these dice.
When all is said and done, you have reproduced this 500 gold piece bottle of dwarven scotch.
I would like to set it right back where I found it originally, and then head to bed.
All right, so the two of you are upstairs now. Kali is sitting there waiting up for you. What are the three? So that everybody is going to go to sleep, or is there a tongue lashing to come? Or maybe tongue lashing is not the right word to use.
Not the kind of tongue lashing you would want.
I'm climbing in my hammock and
All right.
going to sleep. And I lost all my gold too, right?
Yep. Well, it's still on the bar. I mean, unless Rostaban took it.
I had gathered it back up, put it back in the pouch, and I'll hold on to it for now with all intentions of giving it back.
All right.
Sure.
Cool. So
We'll see how I
night,
roll.
the night passes smoothly. The rest of it.
Holly stays up for a little bit,
Okay.
just because she's still kind of a little bit shaken by what happened,
Okay.
and she doesn't want to be caught unawares again. So she stays up for like an hour or so, and then eventually goes to.
Okay. The rest of the night goes smoothly, no activity.
Thank God.
You sleep deep into the next morning. You're awoken the next morning by this gonging sounds erupting out of the harbor. You hear people rushing around outside, people calling back and forth. It's all kind of lost in this cacophony of noise between the bells. Arthur Kari and Bubbles, dear God, your heads hurt. The pain is the anguish. The last thing you remember was sitting in a brightly lit, music-filled dwarven hall, surrounded by all of these metal-clad, full-beard, mighty dwarves, and then darkness. And now here you are, wherever this R is. Kali, Rastaban, Cadence, you all three wake up to the same cacophony, but not in quite as bad a shape as them. The room that you're currently in, the window is shuttered, but it does open out onto the main street and points out towards the harbor itself. The five of you find yourselves in the room that isn't damaged.
I'm gonna look at everybody and go, oh, where did the good-looking men go?
I'm still here.
I know
The door isn't damaged either?
We're in a different room.
Different room.
Oh, all right.
Different room. So we've all learned our lesson, yeah?
That
You may have to remind
Rastaban,
me.
that Rastaban likes to try to poison us?
Sure, I'll take that lesson.
Yes, I have learned a lesson as well. Rat men make a satisfying crunch when hit on the head.
No
Also
truer
a
words
respectable
spoken.
lesson.
So do shifty pirates. They were pirates, right? Did they look like pirates?
Oh, there were sailors, yeah, for sure.
Whatever.
Well, we all learned lessons. Let's see what all the noise is about.
Yes, please keep your voices down.
No, I will not!
Oh.
Yes, keep all of your voices down.
Oh, shut up.
Oh,
So, what are you guys going to do? You gonna make your way downstairs, or?
Yeah.
All right.
We can hear, like, people are kind of running around outside, right?
Yeah. It's like it's not so much running around as they're all kind of moving in one direction, and you can hear some gongs going off from down at the docks.
I'm gonna grab my hammer and my trident, and on the way, remember that I hit that ring out of his hand, and none of us ever picked it up, and it seemed like it might be important, so I'm gonna go see if I can find it and maybe pick it up in something like a cloth or
Investigation, please.
another thing I'm amazing at. I have so many untapped skills. Ooh, a 16.
Wow, yeah, you dig around a bit and you find it under an overturned chair. Not too far from it is the little bit of leather that it was initially in, so you're able to scoop it up safely and tuck it away as more people are moving around outside. Are the five of you going to make your way out of the inn onto the busy streets and all of that? As the five of you come out, everybody roll me a perception check.
oh, good God! These are the death of me.
Another one in jail.
We're gonna start with Kali. That jail means she missed. Arthur Kari.
It's a big old fan.
Oh, Arthur Kari.
11.
Oh, Bubbles.
18.
Nice. Rastaban.
A 14.
And Cadence.
8.
So Rastaban and Bubbles, you see this wave of people running around. They're all kind of running and going down through this basically what you know is now called Docksway. It's one of the main roads that leads up from the docks, and you can see people turning and going that way. And your eyes follow all these colors and fabrics and these people rushing down and turning around and going down Docksway. And as your eyes come back up, you see these large plumes of black smoke coming up from down at the docks, rising up into the air, high enough that you can actually make them out and see them. Bubbles, do you wear any kind of clothing?
I got a robe on.
Oh, good, because you feel a light little tug at your robe.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna look and see what that is.
As you look down, you need to refresh your stuff there, somebody, sometime. As you look down, you see the small, dirty little smeared face of a young little boy in raggedy clothes. He's pulling on your robe, his eyes wide as he looks up in wonderment. Hi, what are you?
Hi, I'm Bubbles.
What? I've never seen a Bubbles.
I'm the only one.
You look like my little sister's pet turtle. Are you a turtle?
I'm a turtle.
My name's Misha. You want to be friends?
Oh no.
He
Sure.
extends out a little tiny hand up towards you, Bubbles. Mischief gone. He's just this innocent little cherubic face.
I'm gonna reach into my pack and rummage around for a little bit, pull out a gold coin and say, "Here, go get some food."
Do you reach the gold coin down to his little outstretched hand?
Yes, I do.
With scary speed, his hand grabs one of your chubby little turtle fingers. His cherubic face replaced as it sinks in tight over his bones. His bright, innocent-looking eyes fill with swirling black clouds. He grabs on. You can feel the icy cold in his hand as he pulls your finger. You know they're coming for you, don't you, bitch? And he lets go. Everybody hears this and sees this as this child pulls away from you, Bubbles. You feel a bit of pain in your finger.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Do you look down?
Yep, I'm looking at my finger.
A chunk of your flesh is gone.
Oh.
You can see a little bit of blood on the small child's hand as he cackles and spins and goes to dart off into the crowd.
Did he take my coin?
No, the coin actually drops and rattles on the ground.
Kill him. Kill him with fire.
Actually, yeah, can I do that?
Everybody can go. Okay, let's go ahead and roll initiative then.
Oh my god.
Wow, damn, holy shit.
I wasted a natural 20. Dang it.
This is getting evil, people. And not from
not
my
rolling.
end. These guys are killing children.
I'm not
and-
rolling on this one.
All right. So starting with Kali.
19.
Wow. Arthur Kari.
Nat 20, so...
Wow. Rastaban.
28.
And Cadence.
Wow. 17.
17. So all four of you are fairly reactive, maybe from the past days, travails and issues and that sort of thing. Your senses heightened. Arthur, you even from the alcohol. You all manage to snap to attention, hyper aware of your surroundings, and you can react if you so choose to react on my little child. Join the ranks of the child murderers. There's a jacket in it for you.
Oh, there's jackets? Oh, that's it. I'm in.
So again, Kali, you got a what?
A 19. 19.
Arthur Kari,
Total of 21.
21. Rastaban,
Sorry, I did my math wrong. 27.
27. Show off. Cadence,
17.
Gosh, back goes me.
17. So the two that can react before the child reacts. Well, actually, all you can. Holy crap! But we're gonna start with the 27.
He started to dart off through the crowd.
Yeah, he pulls his hand away as he gets done calling the Bubbles a bitch and spins, cackling this evil maniacal as he pulls away.
All right, using my halfling nimbleness, which allows me to move through the space of anything, basically. I'm gonna reach out and grab the back of his head, just clump full of hair, best that I can.
All right. As you grab the back of his hair, something shifts. You feel his scalp pull back and away from you. Everybody notices that apparently nobody is paying attention in the crowd to what's happening and transpiring here. Your hand reaches out, clumps into his hair, and he pulls his head away from you, his scalp releasing. You don't hear a tearing sound. You hear this wet sucking sound as you remove his scalp off of his head. It pulls away. You can see strings of blood and matter and matted hair trying to hold on to his scalp as he continues to move away. When this happens, what do you do?
I throw it on the ground and try not to throw up.
All right. You throw it on the ground and this small figure turns around. You can see that its skull is exposed. Rivulets of blood and undermatter still clinging. Its eyes barely held into these now open sockets. You can see his jaw, and his jaw is just kind of sitting there clacking, his eyes wildly looking about as his head falls off, almost as if somebody was wearing a hoodie and just took the hoodie off, or the cloak hood comes off. His jaw is clacking, and you see him begin to shake. His finger kind of comes out and begins to point wildly at all of you. You all are to blame. And that is where we will leave off for this week. Thank you all for tuning in for the premiere episode. A redemption song known as The Adventures of Bubbles. Oh. This is going to be happening every other Wednesday at exactly 9 p.m. Eastern here on Forged at the Table. The next episode of this is going to be on the 25th at 9 p.m. I hope you all enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed running it for you. This is Forged at the Table. I am your Dungeon Master, Charles, but more importantly than that, you're the viewers, and these 5 wonderful souls are the players that have allowed me the fun to spin this tale out of my head. So let's go around the horn. And let's go with Weiss Girl, the player of Kali. Any closing words?
I'm so angry. I could go all night. Thank you so much for this amazing game. And thank you so much for building such an amazing community around your games. And I hope to see all of you next Wednesday, or 2 Wednesdays from now, for the next installment of The Adventures of Bubbles.
And the player of Arthur Kari, Bryway.
Yes, I echo everything that Weiss Girl has said about this community. Join, follow, subscribe. 2 slots left on Something Wicked This Way Comes. Get in on that. It's going to be crazy stuff. And I am concerned about our ability to be redeemed, but I'm hopeful.
And atavistic, the player of Rostobon.
That right there. That is the magic dice. Oh, so good. So good. Can
Ladies
we
and
just
gentlemen, the
keep going
roots.
all night?
No. And Cadence, the player of Cadence, Jens.
Oh wow, that was so fun. I'm just saying, I was laughing so hard I couldn't breathe for a minute. And it is gonna be so cool. I can't wait till the next round. That's all.
And the player of Bubbles, the focus of the unseen wrath, Firehawk 2324.
I'm Firehawk, and now I'm very sad.
Oh.
All right, so yeah, I need to do a correction on something Brioway said. Brioway said that there are 2 slots open in that game. I would like to correct him. There are only 1 slot left in that game, as I just took one of them for myself.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play in that.
Yeah.
I've said I was gonna do this in the past, and I keep giving that one up. I'm not giving it up. You guys need to jump on that last spot, 'cause I guarantee you it's gonna be awesome. Rainy Keys, one thing I want to address really quick. I love Matt Mercer. He's one of a handful of DMs that I hold in very high esteem. I've been doing this for 38 years. I have my own style. But thinking of Mercer's book, if they would have been upstairs and they would have picked up that red crimson book with the white letterings, they would have picked up Her Majesty's Affair, written by one Mata Mercer. So yeah, there was a Mercer book in this. So for everybody that came and hung out with us tonight, I super appreciate it. I got some shout outs to do really quick. Again, this wonderful community keeps blowing my mind. Again, we're gonna go with Swarmzy80 for the 500 bits for a roll that I did not have to roll for. I never roll, it seems like. Imogsatur for the follow. Prayton87 for the follow. Thanks to the 2 of you for your follows, and welcome to our unique and yes, sometimes dysfunctional family. Yes, would people please stay around, because here on this channel we believe in spreading the love, and we're going to go find a channel that's currently active out there playing some D&D or tabletop role-playing games, and we are going to raid them. So stick around and please let us do the raid. Let's see, AFK2P for the tier 1 subscription, Damage Dice for the 230 bits, super appreciate it, Psyops1 for the tier 1 subscription, and again, Swarmzy for the 300 bits. You guys are so amazing. Again, I'd like to thank you guys for playing with us tonight. You guys made this a lot of fun for me, and I look forward to the next episode on the 25th. And next week at this time slot is going to be some Star Wars action. So please give me a second. Let me go ahead and figure this out. See if I can't find me somebody that I want to raid tonight. And we will get a raid put together. I think I have an idea. We're going to see. No, I didn't want to do that. Why are you doing that? I don't want to watch myself. I've already watched myself. All right.
Anybody find me?
All right. Let's see
Somebody
who's
to
out there. Who are we going to jump in on? Let me see what we got. We got the C team. No, we're not gonna do the Keyhold. No, Adventure of Bubbles. No, we know those guys.
It sounds like a fun-loving campaign.
Oh yeah, it does. It's so
Family
does.
adventure.
Yeah, you know what? Like, let's see here. I love this guy so much. But let's see if we can't find. I was hoping to see if anybody else was out there, but I don't see anybody out there. You know what? I'm gonna do it again. He got the love last night, and I'm gonna give him the love again tonight, because he's actually running something. This guy is running currently Shackled City. His DM style is one of those DMs that I thoroughly enjoy. I've been following him for a long time. So we're going to go pop a raid over there on Bubbernot again. This is going to be the last night for a while that I raid in on Bubbernot. But if everybody would please click on it again, thank you all. We couldn't do this without you guys, the players. Couldn't do it without you guys, the viewers, the followers, the subscribers. This has been Forge at the Table. This has been the Adventures of Bubbles, and I have been Charles. Thanks a lot for being here, guys. And hey, let's play some games. Peace.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was so much fun.
Oh my god.
Come on, people, jump in the raid. Come on, guys. We have 27
Let's go
viewers.
raid
Jump in
it.
the raid. Jump in the raid. Jump in the raid.
Actually, you
How do
don't
I
even
do it?
have to jump in. You should be in. Just don't click the leave button.
Yeah, people are jumping, clicking the leave button. I wish people would just stick for the raids. Come on.
If you just
Oh,
stay
yeah,
in, it sucks you in.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm gonna go.
Thank you so much for
Oh my God, that
everything.
was awesome.
This is so much fun.
Yes.
So the target.
And that what a great
in
moment to
drop
end on.
1 spellcasting is inhibited.
For how long?
There we go.
For
He's all permanent. Cool.